Are you ready to uplevel your sales game? Well, here is a gift for you. It is the Mastering the Sales Conversation mini training. This training gives you my proven step-by-step approach to sales so that you can go from that overwhelmed and intimidated approach that you have to sales to feeling confident and leading a conversation so that you easily guide somebody to hiring you. You can get it right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/mastering. This is my gift to you. Go grab it now.
Do sales conversations make you feel awkward or pushy? It's time to ditch the outdated salesy strategies. Your guide, Nikki will show you how to combine kindness with selling skills to meet your prospects where they are, and in the process, how to uplevel your influence and income. Learn how to earn business easily and effortlessly. Here's Nikki.
Welcome and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips, strategies, and techniques to master your sales conversations. Today, we're going to be talking about how do you handle those people that are not paying in a timely fashion and or skipping payments. This is something that comes up, I think, likely for every business owner. At some point, you will encounter a situation where somebody owes you some money and they're not paying. And this is when you have to really kind of, frankly, pull on your big girl pants and do some things and say some things that might be a little uncomfortable for you. So I'm going to give you some language today to hopefully make this an easier conversation while keeping the relationship intact, the rapport still there, and yet speaking up for yourself and for your business. Because let's be honest, in order to stay in business, you have to bring revenue in, and you can't afford to deliver on things that people don't pay you for. This is so crucial. So I get that this can be an uncomfortable topic. I'm hoping that by listening to this episode today, you have some really easy takeaways that you think, oh, I could say that, or I could do that. That is the point of this particular episode. So one of the things I'm going to remind you of right off the bat is you've probably, maybe if you've listened to this podcast before, heard me talk about when is a great time to have selective amnesia. Now, selective amnesia comes from my background in neurolinguistic programming, where there's opportunities that sometimes you have to say things that are uncomfortable, do things that maybe are a little bit outside of your normal behavior with somebody. And because you want to keep the relationship intact, once that situation is done, you've said what you needed to say, or you've done what you needed to do, then you act as if everything is fine. And most of the time, as long as you keep your friendly, professional demeanor with this person, they will go along with it. So what we're about to talk about in language, it may actually require at some point, once the situation has passed, that you show up with selective amnesia. What you don't want to do is show up and still have this like awkward uncomfortableness, because the client will feel that from you, and that may actually drive them to go away. And if they go away, are you going to actually, get the next payment they owe you, or are you going to be able to earn their repeat business? Maybe you don't want it. You get to decide. You only invoke selective amnesia if you want to keep the relationship intact. Now, here's the other thing. There will be times where it isn't viable and it isn't in your best interest to keep the relationship intact, because the thing about relationships is they are a two-way street. So if somebody is taking advantage, if somebody is utilizing your services or have taken your product and not paid for it, you have to determine whether or not you want to keep that relationship. And sometimes the answer is bless and release. And that's okay too. Other times, it's important that the relationship keep going. Maybe there was something going on for this person. They had a misstep, and you can recover, and the relationship can recover. That's when you invoke selective amnesia. Okay. So let's talk about some language to use when a payment is late, when somebody owes you some money and it's time for you to have that conversation. So here is some suggestions for you. You might say, The reason that I'm reaching out today is to ask, what do you need in order to take care of the payment that is now due today? Pause, see if they have a response. And then, if necessary, you can write this too, by the way, but sometimes it's better just say it. And you can also say this on a voicemail so you wouldn't have the long pause here. But you could say, in order for our relationship to stay in good standing, it's important that we both keep to our agreements. Here's how to make your final payment. So be really clear of how they can actually pay for that. I love this phrase that I just gave you here, which is, in order for our relationship to stay in good standing, it's important that we both keep to our agreements. In sales, you've probably heard me talk about that it's important that there's a balance of power. You never want to hold all the power over your prospect or your client because they'll go find somebody else to buy with or buy from. You don't want them to hold the power over you because, frankly, unfortunately, human nature is they'll take advantage and they'll abuse you, and you'll feel less than in that conversation. When you say to somebody, in order for our relationship to stay in good standing, it's important that we both keep to our agreements. You are balancing the power. You're saying to them, you are not more important than me, and I'm not more important to you. And I will keep to my agreements, and I expect you to keep to yours, without as many words as I just gave. Now, you can also say in a voicemail or even written, if for any reason you're unable to make payment today, please respond or please call and let's talk through what's needed to make the payment happen. And then you give them, information on how to contact you. Don't give the person the out if you are having a live conversation with them. Don't say, if for any reason you're unable to make payment. That is something that you keep in your back pocket in a live conversation. You do not give them an out prior to asking them to make that payment. And then that's it. And then you pause and you wait. This is a great time to bring, that advanced selling technique into the sales conversation, which is known as silence. So when you say to them, in order for our relationship to stay in good standing, it's important that we both keep to our agreements. How would you like to make that payment today? Then you wait. You get silent. You let them respond. And if they say, I'm so sorry, or whatever their story is of why they can't make payment. And I'm not making judgment, by the way, about story. I'm not diminishing, because there are times, right, where we all get into tight situations and we might struggle to make payment. And sometimes when you can show somebody some grace, they may actually, it may actually deepen the rapport and deepen the relationship and deepen their commitment and loyalty to you when you show some flexibility. So I'm not opposed to showing flexibility. I am opposed to just letting somebody take advantage and not have that conversation with you and be really upfront about making that payment to you and when they're going to do that. Now, if you make an agreement with somebody that they say, I will pay this next Monday, and you go, okay, great, I'll look forward to that on Monday. Do not wait days to then follow back up. If you don't have a payment by mid-afternoon Monday, you call them and say, hey, I know we had this agreement that you were going to make this payment today. I want to go ahead and give you the opportunity to take care of that now. Like, don't just sit on it and wait for days. Like, you do your due diligence and follow back up. If you let them just kind of keep it hanging out there, at some point, you're going to want to kick yourself for letting it go on this long. Now, here's the other thing I want to talk about in this particular episode is that there are times where you're just not going to get the money. And you have to decide in that moment, what are you going to do about that? Are you going to chase this person? Are you going to file small claims, take them to small claims court? What are you going to actually do? A lot of times, based on the amount of money that they owe you, if it's a small amount of money, it may not be worth your time and energy to try to chase this person down to get payment. So you might need to bless and release and just say, I'm not going to spend any more time and energy on this particular thing. Now, I've been in business for 11 years. I've had a few people not come through on their payments. And I remember one in particular, actually, this was one of the first, I was probably in my first maybe 6 months of business. And I had let the person know we were meeting in person, and we had agreed that she would pay me at the session, like at our in-person meeting for the strategy session that I was doing for her. So we met, delivered the strategy session, and then at the end I said, okay, now, this is the amount that's due. And she wrote me a check. Great. All's well. And then the check bounced. Great. Not so great, really. And at that time, like that little bit of money that she paid me felt like a lot of money, right? I was starting out, didn't have a lot of revenue coming in, and really needed that payment and felt really attached to it. So I reached out to her, did exactly what I'm saying. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm really embarrassed about this. I'm going to send you another I'm going to get a new check in the mail. Like something happened with my debit card and we had to shut that account. Like she had a reason for it. And I was like, okay, great. And, 10 days went by and there's no check. So I followed back up and she was like, that's so weird. What is your mailing address? I sent that. And she's like, okay, I'm going to just send you another check in the mail. And if you get the other one, just don't deposit too. And I was like, of course, of course I won't do that. 10 more days went by and there's no check. And I followed back up with her again. And she was like, I'll take care of this. I'm going to get you a credit card, Nikki. And her story had kind of started to change. So I was feeling like, okay, something's not right here. Side note, just because I always think this is interesting, this particular woman, what she did for a living was she helped people with their finances and getting budgets in order. So this felt a little bit like, wait, what? So weird. And it was just kind of a lot of back and forth, a lot of me chasing her. And I remember having a conversation with a mentor of mine at that time. And he said to me, Nikki, you're spending so much time and energy on this. And I know it feels like a lot because you're starting out, but this isn't a lot of money. And if you took that time and energy and spent it somewhere else to actually bring in new clients, you would make yourself more money. And he was so right. So I ended up blessing and releasing and just like stopped chasing this person for money. Now, fast forward a few months, this woman and I showed up at the same networking meeting, and I could tell she was avoiding me. And frankly, I didn't want to talk to her either. So I did what I do in these moments is you don't get my attention. If you have wronged and not like kept integrity with me, you don't get my attention. So I could tell that at one point she was trying to engage me in a conversation, and I wasn't being rude. I wasn't engaging in the conversation. I was like, nice to see you, turned away, started a conversation with somebody else. Like that's all you get. To which she called me after the event and said, I know I owe you this money and I'm really sorry. I have a credit card. Can I just give it to you right now over the phone and you can run it? She did give me the credit card. It actually had somebody else's name on it. I felt a little awkward, but I did run it. It did actually come through. The payment went through. And, it was a great lesson for me. Like, I don't think I would ever do that again, take a credit card that had somebody else's name on it. And I think actually what I ended up kind of figuring out is she had changed her name. There was I don't know. It felt really odd. The whole thing felt odd. I did end up getting paid on it, but it really wasn't, it was so much time and energy. It wasn't worth it. Do you know how to recognize and act on a buying signal? I have a gift that is going to teach you these 17 buying signals so that you're ready when you get them to take action and move somebody to the next part of the sales conversation. You can get this right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/Maven. Go grab it now. And given that situation, I probably wouldn't have let the person pay Where I am now in my business, I would have said like, thanks, no thanks, but we are done. Like we're not going to work together. And actually, I did have a client. I had one VIP client one time, not complete. She was on a payment plan and she didn't complete the payment with me. We had done her VIP day. She had made that first initial payment, so she paid 50% up front. And I had completed, she kept saying she was going to pay. And then she ended up pushing back after we had completed her session and asked me for a discount, which I said no. Then she asked if she could not pay me because she had a lot of different things going on in her life, which I said no to, that she still needed to pay because I had delivered, I had kept to my agreement and I expected her to keep to hers. And then she stopped getting any attention and time. And she ended up coming back like a year later and asking if she could hire me again. And I told her no. Like I don't do business with people that I feel like lack integrity. So no, I'm not going to coach you. Because she was like, I'll pay up front. And I was like, nope. That's not how I work. So you get to decide in these moments what makes sense for you. But I will say for me, chasing people for money, it doesn't feel good. I'm frustrated. And at some point I go like, could I spend that time and energy somewhere else? And would I get better results? Like, would I bring more revenue into my business if I spent this time and energy doing something else, which is what I tend to do. Now, remember that there will just be people who can't pay or won't pay. So, what are you going to do in those moments? And I think if you decide this up front, it gives you that like freedom to know, like, this is how I'm going to handle situations. Not that you can't change your mind, but if you think about how you're going to handle these situations up front, then when you find yourself in the situation, I think you're more resilient if you've already decided this is how I handle these situations. First and foremost, I do think when you're delivering services, it's important to get payment up front. And if you're going to do a payment plan for somebody, then I truly believe that you shouldn't deliver all the deliverables before they have made that final payment. But again, you get to decide in your business what works for you. I often advise clients to get payment up front. They will often push back. And then when they try it, they're always surprised that people are willing to pay up front, and then they don't have to chase people for money. One of the strategies that I implemented into my business a few years back, based on this incredible mastermind that I've been a part of since 2018, this group of women, one had said, oh, one of the things I do if for reoccurring payments is they have to sign up using, this software, which is ThriveCart. I can advocate for ThriveCart. I do like them, but that's not what I'm doing right now, just to be really clear. And having people run things through ThriveCart just allowed for auto payments versus me like sending an invoice saying like, oh, this payment is due and I need to remind you of it. And now they just have to put their credit card in and, ThriveCart just charges the card as it's supposed to. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't still, the credit card does fail from time to time, but I don't spend as much time chasing when I have something that's automated. So that has been a game changer for me. And if you haven't done that in your business, that might be time for you to think about, especially when you have a lot of reoccurring payments, trying to chase people. Also, because I'm just not really good with this piece. So me remembering to send invoices and then remembering to follow up, did they pay them or not pay them? It's not one of my strengths. And I don't necessarily want to pay somebody on my team to do it. So the way I do it now is have this automated system that charges people. And when they don't pay, then I get a notification that their payment has failed. And they also get a notification that their payment has failed. And most people end up paying. There are still people who don't, and then they get put on my does not get to buy from me list, which I do have, and they don't ever get offers from me again. So that's, that's what I do. That makes me feel good about it. So you do what feels good for you. Remember, it's always about protecting your business, protecting your time and your energy, and having uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes you're doing it in service of your business. And in order for you to make the bigger impact in the world that I suspect you want to make, you need to be in business And that means that people need to pay you for your services and your products. So be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations when you need to. Invoke selective amnesia to move past it, to keep the relationship intact, and bless and release those people who are just going to time suck. And you're going to feel like you're chasing them all the time for time and money. It's probably not worth it. So I am wishing you continued success. Thank you for showing up and listening to the podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here. I do not take it for granted. I really absolutely appreciate you and am just cheering you on. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.
Are you ready to increase your confidence in your sales conversations? I have a gift for you that is going to show you exactly how to do that. It is my Closing the Sale ebook. It's all about leveling up your confidence, giving you language to use, how to seamlessly move somebody through the sales process. And you can get it right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/Maven. Go grab it.